Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 23 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 16 today for the Singapore Grand Prix in Season 1. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Italian GP, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, because that should have been our second race win of the season, or I think our third podium overall. But sadly, as you can see by the season results, we DNF'd on that one from the lead of the race. It was really quite painful, still reeling from that, as our engine went pop for the very first time this season. And it wasn't a gearbox issue, by the way, if you're wondering, because we were having gearbox issues anyway, missing some gears, but it was something completely unrelated. It was the MGUK, and that component hasn't even been a component that's worn out for us. You can see, compared to the other components, that the whole color array of all the components we've used of the MGUK has been quite light and pretty decent. So it's kind of very strange that that's the component that failed, which makes it even more devastating, really. It gives me no solace at all, basically, as we go ahead now and purchase the front downforce upgrade. Obviously, we purchased the rear downforce last time. We finally have enough R&D to buy the front downforce upgrade, and now looking around for maybe what's possible with other upgrades on the car, as well as we continue to try and push the performance of this one. Although, to be fair, at this point in the season, we also have to maybe have one eye on, this is around the time of the season where you get told there's a regulation change. So although I do want to spend more on the car, because apparently we're the fourth worst on the chassis still, it's very, very close on the chassis side of things, but I think we need another chassis upgrade, so we buy another one on those, and then also have my eye on the engine upgrade, because we do have the best engine on the grid, but it's a very small margin now as teams like Aston Martin start to catch us up. So we purchase a minor upgrade on the engine power, so we've got 4 pending, 2 on the aero, which are 2 major upgrades, a chassis and an engine power upgrade, so that's looking pretty damn good. And in terms of our money, we have our eyes on the first marketing upgrade on the sponsor relations. That's going to boost the rate of acclaim, or rate of acclaim that we earn. And obviously, the more acclaim we have, the more sponsors we can then get on the car, unlocking those extra secondary sponsors. And that in turn will earn us more money. So that is the phrase of, you've got to spend money to make money, really, in this business, especially in Formula 1. So that's where we're eyeing up, especially because I feel like we're not really getting to a bottleneck quite yet with any other area of the car in terms of pure performance with the HQ facilities, and that is the 320 extra R&D there that we got from the research from the failure. So that's a little bit of silver lining from that failure, getting that extra R&D, but still very much feeling the pain and the hurt from losing a race win, only a mere couple of laps away from the race end. But we just spoke about spending some funds to maybe potentially earn some more later down the line, and that's very much in theme with today's video sponsor. Yep, this video is sponsored by Freetrade. Freetrade believes in commission-free investing for everyone. This means you won't pay any commission when investing your spare cash. While other brokers charge up to £12 per trade, Freetrade doesn't, so you can keep more of your money, and where they do charge, like an FX, it's fair and transparent. The design of the app makes it simple and easy to use, which is great for any experience level, from beginners starting to educate themselves on the benefits of investing to experts already in the know. You can start investing from just £2, and they offer these things called fractional stocks. This basically means you can buy a small piece of an expensive US company like Google, Tesla, and Apple. Freetrade is a Which.com recommended provider for 2023 and has won the best online trading platform at the British Bank Awards 5 years running. With over 700,000 investors on board, they're an investment platform you can trust. Now, for the best bit, if you create and fund your account with just £10 using the link down below on screen or in the description, you'll get a free share worth between £10 and £100. Remember, when you invest, your capital is at risk. The value of your portfolio can go down as well as up, and you may get back less than you put in. This is not financial advice. You should always do your own research on what investments are right for you before investing, or seek the advice of a professional. And with that, let's get back to the video. And I literally just mentioned earlier about the regulation change maybe coming in, and this is the kind of time to hear about it. Well, here you go. We've got an email, a few little murmurs about a regulation change coming in. It could affect multiple departments, it says. So we need to try and make sure that we're saving some R&D. So really, those 4 pending upgrades may be the final 4 upgrades we make on this car, because if there is multiple departments, that's going to, depending on the departments, that's going to cost us a lot of R&D points. And into Season 2, that kind of regulation change, that's the kind of moment we can have an inflection point of really becoming a top team and actually consistently challenging, and not just challenging for wins when we're trying audacious 0-0 wing strategies. So it's a really important time, that is, to save the R&D and the winter break into next season. So we're going to have to pay attention to that. But into the Singapore Grand Prix, yeah, no upgrades for this weekend, so we're plateauing a bit, and McLaren do catch us up. They're pretty much on top of us on the R&D chart. Mercedes are now the best team on the grid according to the performance chart, followed by Aston Martin, Red Bull down to 3rd. But look at the fuel spread there. We're all so close together now, within like 1 margin line to the other compared to the start of the season. You know, Haas and Alpine make upgrades. So although we have in this series, you know, I've been vocal about complaining that it maybe seemed a bit easy on the R&D, you know, late into this season, we're finally maybe seeing the AI start to really catch up to us with that boosted R&D for them, and maybe now is when it's going to come in, where we're seeing that rate of development just keep on ticking away, basically. So maybe our wishes are going to come true, and finally we're going to get a real big challenge, because we are getting relatively slower compared to the cars around us in the last couple of episodes because of this plateauing, and we definitely will if we're going to save the R&D for next season. So things may be getting more challenging for us as we go on to the back end of this season, and things are certainly going to be a challenge for us at this race, because we've got torrential rain at the Singapore Grand Prix. We've got quite a few of these wet sessions as of late. You know, we had a very dry start to the first half of the season, but there's a lot of rain coming in as we go on through this season, and so we've got another wet qualifying here, and we're on the intermediates though, even though the rain does look pretty damn heavy, to be honest. So I wouldn't be surprised maybe if it's going to be full wet by the end of Saturday, but right now on the inters, trying to do the best job we can. But I gotta say, this car felt absolutely terrible around this circuit on intermediate. At this moment, crossing towards the line for the first flying lap, I really couldn't tell if it was a combo of the weather, the car, the track. You know, it's my first time at Singapore, and it's in the wet, so I haven't done any running at Singapore so far in this game. This is my first outing, even with the new handling, and the first time we get to experience the circuit is in wet conditions, so that's not a very, you know, great way to bed in a new circuit, let's say. We go for a second flyer, we do improve, but only up to P, well, it's going to be 17 by the time we get into turn 1, and the car just feels woeful. There's no grip, the understeer is horrendous, so I was really scratching my head, and I'm looking around, and the lap times are ridiculously faster for everyone else. We go for a 3rd flying lap at the end of the session, and my engineer defaults me to wet tyres. So now I understand what's happened. What happened there was, as I was running my lap, it was getting wetter and wetter. I was right to say it was going to get to full wet, because it was full wet weather by the time I was doing my second flying lap, let's say. It was already getting progressively wetter. So everyone who set a lap time at the very beginning of the session had the track at its best when it was actually time for intermediate, because even Fernando Alonso got caught out in this, so myself and him are out in Q1. I've got a 5-place penalty anyway, because I didn't show you guys, but I'm having to take a gearbox penalty, so that just adds misery to pain, really, because we can go from 18th now to the back of the grid with the 5-place penalty, because 5 places to me, I decided to take the gearbox penalty because all our gearboxes are so worn, as you can clearly see by the bottom bit. But you know, 5 places wouldn't have been too bad if we qualified in P7, but now that we're going to be at the back of the grid, I may as well take a full set of engine components just to get a fresh engine basically in the back of this thing. But I think there's more rain on the way tomorrow, so I've got to hope that at least I'll be on the right tyre and the right conditions. But yeah, just absolutely got caught out by, you know, not being able to tell it was time to full wet, and by that point, game over. There's no point going out again because the damage has already been done. So yeah, really frustrating. We've had quite a few of these Saturdays as of late where operationally we've not been absolutely on it. So yeah, but I take some solace in the fact that Fernando Alonso, 2-time champion, also got caught out in that. So both of us out in Q1, and myself relegated to the back of the grid then for the longest race on the F1 calendar. it's probably going to feel like a long one from P22. Let's go to the grid.
Marina Bay hosted a Grand Prix that briefly ran in the 60s and 70s, but the Garden City re-entered the calendar for good in 2008. We missed it for a couple of years, but it was great to come back to the Singapore Grand Prix. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. What a qualifying yesterday for George Russell. He'll start today's race from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Sainz, Leclerc, Perez, Norris, Albon, Gasly, Ocon, Joe, Bottas, Hulkenberg, Oscar Piastri, De Vries, Liam Lawson, Fernando Alonso, Sargent, Stroll, Tsunoda, Magnussen, and the owner-driver rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
It is absolutely bucketing it down here at the Singapore GP. Look how wet it looks. I think it has not been this wet since that time we had that one moment of monsoon rain. I can't remember what episode it was exactly, but because we're under the floodlights in a night race, it looks even worse because all the light is bouncing off the puddles and everything like that. So yeah, we've got a long race ahead of us. I think, thankfully, it might be getting drier in the second half of this race, so it's not going to be the longest Singapore Grand Prix ever. That would have been absolute torture. Even with the new handling model, it's still not very enjoyable to drive around Singapore in full wet conditions. So we've just got to try and make the most of it in the opening laps. Maybe just survive the first part and then hopefully have some fun when we get to DRIES. Here we go then to 5 red lights. It's a Mercedes front row lockout for a heavy rain race start at the Singapore Grand Prix. We're at the back of the grid and the lights have gone out, and we're just taking this, well, a little bit easy to be honest, just to see where we can maybe place our car to go around the outside maybe of a couple of drivers into turn 1. The AlphaTauri gets very close to us on the left. The 2 Williams bunched in with the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll, so we try and thread it through on the outside. We're now side by side with Stroll, making a bit of contact as we're getting very wayward, and we almost crash into the wall there. We do make contact with Stroll, so we're a lucky man, but we're down back to last place. We then make, what is that, about 5 overtakes, I think, in one corner, which is unreal stuff, to be honest. They were too busy all fighting each other. But look at the visibility. I can hardly see where the brake markers are or where the apexes are because of the spray. You know, the name tag's helping a little bit as we get closer, and we're going to catch De Vries absolutely napping at the hairpin for a nice overtake up to P16. So we recovered basically from the penalties we would have got, and we're now once again behind Fernando Alonso as we are going to be after qualifying. So we've undone the penalty at least, but it is hooning it down in terms of the weather. Russell leads the way. Verstappen's managed, though, to break the Mercedes deadlock, and Russell's slow! Russell's slow! From the lead of the race, he's got an issue! And Verstappen just keeps on getting that rub of the green. He's into P1, Hamilton P2, Russell, he was leading the way, and he's now parked up, and that's going to be a long trek back to the paddock in this weather. So the 2 Ferraris elevated. It's very Noah's Ark there, 3 to 4. Perez P5, Norris 6th, Albon, Gasly, Ocon, Zhou Guanyu is your top 10 as we have a virtual safety car that is out for George Russell there. So we're having to go slower than the delta time on the top right, but this is an opportunity maybe as the virtual safety car is ending to maybe try and catch Alonso napping. Not an easy task, but we're going to go for it as we go for a very late dive bomb. Alonso gives us some room. He gets wide on the curb, and that allows us to get the traction out the corner to get up into P14, but it is very hard going here. The rain is definitely lighter now in lap 4. Look at the sky. There just isn't that much rain coming in, and a lot of people are in now for, I assume, the intermediates. We've carried on because I didn't want to double stack behind Piastri. For once, my teammate was the one in the lead on track, so he gets pit priority. And unfortunately, there's still no way to tell your teammate to not pit or pit on this game after how many years of us having the idea. So we're up to P6, and a lot of us have actually stayed out on the full wets. We have a bit of a mare going into the pit lane, trying to get the grip going on the full wet tyres, but it's time for intermediate. Alonso also stayed out with us, along with Zhou Guanyu, Ocon, Stroll there as well. So quite a few teammates, because they were second on the road, they had to stay out because the double stack, especially in a very busy pit lane like that, really would have killed off any chance of you actually gaining positions. So even though we might not gain anything, as we have it's a slow stop. It's a slow stop. This race weekend so far is just absolutely compounding. We have the mess up in quali with the weather and the tyres, the penalties. Then we had a very difficult start where we almost crashed. We did gain back positions, and now we had to go out and stay out on the full wet. So we're absolutely behind Piastri by 2.4 seconds. And now I've lost the position to Alonso because of a slow stop. There was an issue getting the tyre on. So we're getting absolutely no luck whatsoever here at Singapore. It's just really pounding down on us. And Alonso's ahead, and he's going to stay ahead. It's on lap 7. Hulkenberg, in these tricky conditions, has gone straight on into the wall. And that is enough cause for the red flag to come out. And for the first time, this is post-patch. So wherever we finish will actually be where we finish at the end of this race, because they fixed the broken red flag problems. So we've switched it back on onto the game, and I'm kind of glad we have, because that red flag is going to actually stay long enough for it to be DRIES. That is ridiculous. It was still so wet on lap 7. Wet enough that Hulkenberg made that mistake locking up into the barrier. But somehow in like 2-3 laps time, it is going to be dry enough. Obviously, like a normal red flag, you know, it's not just the laps that you're waiting. A red flag, that, you know, there's about a 10-minute wait time until you even start the race again. So maybe in those 10 minutes, it's just got that much drier. So that's going to be awesome and music to my ears, but maybe others as well. But we're going to go on to the medium tyre, and it might be a medium to soft tyre strategy by the end of this race. So we're going to be really punchy at the end. But here we go then for the second time in Singapore to 5 red lights, and it's a great start for us. It's a horrendous one for Fernando Alonso, who I think maybe stalled a little bit off the line, to be honest, because even Hulkenberg, who's still in this race, jumped him as well. So really bad. Alonso actually lost the place out to Logan Sargent in the Williams as we go round the outside of Ocon, and immediately loving the grip on the medium tyres. But remember, I haven't done a single lap at Singapore in the dry. These are my very first dry laps around this circuit, so really having to just go as we learn. We're now behind Piastri once again in P12, so it's looking good for our team. P11 to 12. Pretty decent. Maybe I would hope in the next, phase of this Grand Prix, we've still got so long to go. There's still 2/3 of this race to go. That's how long this race is. We've had so much happen already. The red flag, virtual safety car, the leader out of the race, Hulkenberg crashing. We've still got so long to go. So I think in the laps we've got, I'm hoping myself and Piastri can find ourselves into the top 10, but I'm going to try and swap the positions and overtake Oscar. Sorry, mate, as we get down the inside there, I thought I'd try and keep as much room as possible so he doesn't lose a position. So he's still there behind us in P12, thankfully. But I want to have a go at Zhou Guanyu with a purple first sector, so clearly the engine is still working well for us. But Zhou Guanyu putting up a real good fight. He's on the soft compound, remember. All the cars ahead of us, a lot of them seem to be on the softs, and we know the delta time is so much more. So even though I'm in a much quicker car than Zhou Guanyu, it takes us 4 whole laps to finally catch back up to him after that near miss, as I got frustrated trying to get the move done on lap 10, and instead we lost time to him, and it took us 4 laps to catch back up to him, and where he is finally now maybe feeling some tyre wear as we go round the outside, few marbles on the right tyre, but we now finally made the overtake to get into the top 10, and Zhou Guanyu's tyres fall off the cliff as Tsunoda is out the Grand Prix. But look at the top left. Joe's not even in that frame now. He's dropped down to below P12 as we now see his teammate Bottas coming in off the soft. So that might indicate that everyone who chose the soft tyres, they're going to come in the next couple of laps here. So we just carry on lap 19, on to 20. We've got a Ferrari in, Norris in the McLaren Piastri's come in now, but he was on the medium tyre, so that's a little bit surprising. So maybe Piastri feeling the tyre on the mediums. I think we're good to go on for a little bit more just to make sure that we have a good amount of soft tyre wear at the end of the race when we go onto that tyre. But as we go on through the laps, onto lap 21, we've now got Hulkenberg and Alonso in. Now that would have been my cue to come in because Alonso was on the same strategy as me, but we're going to carry on because there's a sniff of a chance of maybe getting the lead because Carlos Sainz is right there in the Ferrari ahead of us. We're oh so close. Half a second difference on the exit, if that, like 0.3. But I just don't have the actual performance or the tyres left to chase after him a little bit, because I did think a little bit maybe, oh, can we keep going on and maybe try and finesse this? And at this point now, 10 laps to go, I've maybe put myself into a corner where I kind of have to go long to just try and eke this out, because now I pit, I'm going to be miles behind Piastri. And to be honest, this has been a whole race of nothing going my way, apart from maybe the red flag did help us out, of course, just going to DRIES. But we would have gone to DRIES anyway, eventually. So, you know, in a race like this where nothing's really gone right for us, I thought, you know what, screw it. We're just going to go for this ballsy strategy and try and see where we end up by the end of this race. But it does mean we're now a bit of a trolley train here ahead of Verstappen and Hamilton, who've closed up to us. The Red Bull goes for the move into the last corner. Absolutely not Verstappen. There's no room to go on the inside there. We get to the apex first. He gets squeezed out. Now Hamilton is there on the inside behind. There's a fight between Norris and Perez, but this is the fight we're focused on. Hamilton versus Verstappen in 2023. Mercedes versus Red Bull, and Hamilton on the outside still trying to get this move done. It's an epic battle between them two, and it's still side by side for Norris and Perez as well. Some great battling going on in this last third of the Grand Prix. Verstappen comes back at the Merc because he has DRS, but Hamilton, I think, has a bit better race pace, it would seem, as he's on the inside there. But no, Max actually squeezes him out and maintains that. But like I said, I think the Merc's going to get him eventually, because it seems like Mercedes have better pace around here. Obviously now they're the best team on the grid, really, so they should have that kind of pace. As Verstappen, though, tries to get me, once again, being defensive as ever, and we squeeze him out, but then Hamilton gets the undercut line there, switch back from right to left, gets the better exit. Again, we're going to be a real nuisance to these top teams and top names as we're able to outbrake him and squeeze him out on lap 22. But how long can we carry this on for, as Hulkenberg's had another brake issue? His brakes must just be ruined this race. We've had that a few times in previous F1 games where a specific AI just keeps on locking up lap after lap because they've got a brake issue. And so Hulkenberg's had 2 issues where he's gone into a wall. He's still in this race again somehow, but he's brought out this safety car now. So this is now a good time to pit, because if we just carry on, we are going to get swallowed up. So we're going to come in now for a set of fresh soft tyres onto lap 24. There's not a lot of laps left, like 6 laps to go, but because we're all bunched up, we're gonna have the opportunity to minimum get back to where we were pre going long on the mediums, which was what, like around like P9, chasing after Gasly and Valtteri Bottas. So anything better than P9 is going to be a massive success for us this race. So we strap on a new set of soft tyres. We're going to come out behind Alonso once again, P16, but that's really kind of in the region we were racing with, you know, on the mediums. Obviously, maybe a couple of positions lost, and maybe one more there with De Vries. We get ahead of Sargent, thankfully, before we tuck in for this, Delta kind of line, conga line under the safety car. But now we're getting underway once again, lap 26, and look at that pace difference on the acceleration. We're going to get De Vries straight away into turn 1, and already I can feel like these soft tyres are going to feel unreal compared to everyone around us on slightly warm mediums, as we get Fernando Alonso on the outside, big dive bomb on Lance Stroll on the inside. And this is the first time this entire race I've had supreme confidence in where to brake, when to turn in, the car's going to stick. This entire race has been such a chore for us in terms of the feeling of the car, but now I'm feeling that confidence and feeling fighty as we get down the inside of Magnussen with a late lunge. That was from so far back, but he was caught up behind Piastri, and so we're up into P13. So We're nearly at that region where we were, because we were floating around where Piastri was. There's Zhou Guanyu just up the road there. So we get these 3 positions, and we're back to where we were. We've not really lost anything, and we might gain some more as we now go down the inside for a very deja vu move, I must say, on the inside of Piastri at the hairpin once more. But now looking to get Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. He doesn't go very defensive. I think these guys know how much pace we have on the soft tyres. We're up into P11 again, chasing after Zhou Guanyu in the Alfa Romeo once again, but this time we'd have the confidence to just shoot it down, and he just doesn't have the grip. These softs are an absolute joke right now in this point in the race when these guys are on worn mediums and our softs are only, what, 3 laps old at this point as we get through on the inside. Gasly with a bit of a squeeze, to be honest, and he gives us a nice fight because he's still there on the inside, but we're going to chop him off of the apex. Purple first sector, get the dive bomb done on Alexander Albon like he's not even there. We are laughing right now. P8 on the softs. I would already take this, but we've still got 4 laps to go. Bottas is holding up Leclerc here in the slower Alfa Romeo, so there's a chance to overtake this Ferrari. And then Norris is up the road in a McLaren. He's someone we should be fighting because they're very close to us in the performance index on the R&D chart, so we should be aiming for maybe as high as P5 in this race, which would be an amazing recovery in a full wet race, how it started from the back of the grid as we get Leclerc, and he's just absolutely defenseless there. Bottas now, as we have DRS available for the first time in this race on the outside into turn 1. We get to the apex still, even though we're overtaking him up into P6. We're flying. This is like Hungary all over again, where these tyres are just so amazing and the difference of pace from the soft to medium. This is why we couldn't overtake Joe, by the way, or when we were on mediums and he was on softs. This is why it took us 4 laps to overtake the Alfa Romeo beforehand, because this is how much pace he was feeling in the car probably, as was everyone else on the soft tyre. As we overtake Norris, we make him go to the inside, and we're just going to take the outside line for the racing line up into P5. And on lap 29, we're closing on the Red Bulls, and Perez is going for the overtake to become the lead Red Bull car. Verstappen's struggling a bit, and we're going to get him down the inside. We completely catch him unawares. He leaves the door open, and we're going to smash through it. Perez, though, looking a lot better around here. Obviously a street circuit, so no surprise there. Verstappen down to P5, and Perez and myself are both chasing after Hamilton. Could a podium be on the cards? Could a P2 be on the cards? The P2 that we pit from, remember, under the safety car. That would be insane if we recover back up to where we were pre the safety car pit stop, as we're trying to find a way in on Perez, but he's actually pretty damn quick, so it's not as easy as the other cars. But we're going on to the last lap of the Grand Prix, so this is it. If I want a podium, we have to do it now or never, probably in Sector 1, because I don't think there'll be an opportunity to overtake either this Red Bull or Mercedes in the later sectors, because they've got a bit too much pace. I mean, look at Verstappen. Verstappen's 4.1 seconds behind us, so he's absolutely struggling, but that's the only reason we overtook him. So I think Perez and Hamilton will be a harder person to overtake in Sectors 2 and 3. So can we get it done in Sector 1? Perez is maybe thinking about a move on Hamilton, but we're going to make the decision for him and catch him unawares. Big lunge. We got to the curb and didn't go off circuit there to make the overtake, and we're going to steal. It's a smash and grab podium here by the end of the Singapore Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz gets back to winning ways for Ferrari, wins the Singapore GP. Hamilton had a bit too much pace for us as the softs start to wear out by the end of the lap, but it's third place.
It's never easy to make it across the finish line here in Singapore, but they've done so with some style here today to take a remarkable victory. So Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
Quite simply, a driver is nothing without the team behind them. So, a deserved winner, but we do have to give a shout out to the team in the pit lane and back at the factory. Very much a collaborative process.
Here come our winners now, a thrilling race and a tremendous effort by Ferrari. Their history is well known, so it's no surprise to fans the world over to see them come out on top once again.
Our race win was stolen away last episode. This doesn't make up for it, but we do get a podium that we also lost in doing so. So you know, swings and roundabouts. It's come back a little bit. Maybe this is a bit of karma, really, for us losing out the win. But, you know, from last place, with how bad this car felt all weekend and how difficult the first part of the race was, you know, we came through, got a bit of, you know, finally got a bit of luck, really, with the safety car at the end. I think the red flag also did help us out, but I'm actually quite confident if the track had just got drier as it did, we would have come back through a few more positions anyway at that point. But the red flag also helped because Fernando Alonso had that awful start, and we come through for a podium. Piastri P12 stuck behind Joe Guan Yu. I think if it was not a street circuit, I think Piastri definitely was showing pace for maybe some points today. But yeah, I'll take it. But Verstappen loses some points out. But to be honest, the fact that Sainz has won it is helping him, because basically Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, Perez, they all keep sharing turns to win and take points off Max, but they're all taking points off each other as well. So Max still is in a pretty decent place in the championship. Constructors wise, Red Bull is still so strong, 70 points ahead. For us, we're a bit of a no man's land, really. You know, we're keeping good pace compared to McLaren, so we're not worried by the team below us, but we're not fast enough and consistent as two drivers to catch Aston Martin. So at this point in the season, especially now with the R&D regulation change on the way, it's going to be about just trying to survive and collate this position in the championship and save as many R&D points as we can, and just try and have some fun, good results like we have had today. A stonking effort from where we were at the start. Guys, if you have enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.